Welcome back. Now, Campaign 07. We continue our look at the Democrats running in the primary for mayor of the city of Hartford. Today, the former deputy mayor joins us, I. Charles Matthews. Mr. Matthews, thanks so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Dennis, for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
First of all, a lot of people ask an obvious question. What does the I stand for?
Isaiah.
Isaiah. And you go by I. Charles?
In part because when I was a young man, I had real serious speech impediment, and I couldn't pronounce my first name. So over the years, I've just shied away from it.
Everyone just says I. Charles.
Everyone just says I. Charles.
Why do you want to be mayor?
Well, I think it's time for a change. As you go around the city and you talk to people in all neighborhoods, people are saying the same thing. We cannot afford another 4 years of this administration. These no-bid contract, these lapses in ethics, we have to change that. We have to begin to focus on the needs of the people in the city and the needs of our small businesses. And that's why I want to be mayor. I want to focus on the people. I want to focus on the needs of our businesses. We want to make Hartford a city people can be proud of again.
What kind of mayor do you think Eddie Perez has been?
Well, I think he's been a mayor that's okay. I think you reach a point, if you think about corporate America, there's a point in corporate America where you may bring in a CEO, and that CEO may be perfect for the time. And then the corporation evolves to a new height. And once the corporation evolves and has new problems, you may need a different kind of CEO. I think right now we need a different kind of CEO for this office. I think right now, as far as Mayor Perez is concerned, I've said this around the campaign, I don't think he's a bad person. I just think it's time to move on. And I think the problems we now have in this city in education, public safety, neighborhood investments are not the kind of issues that he has capacity to resolve. We need new leadership.
What's the worst thing he's done as mayor, do you believe?
Well, again, I don't want this to be a program about Eddie Perez, just so you know, Dennis. I know this is your program. But I think...
well, I mean, you want voters to vote him out of office, so...
Sure. So, but I think it's important that the voters focus on things like ethics, focus on things like honesty, focus on things like trust. I think those are important issues. If you're going to be mayor of the city, if you're going to spend the people's resources, the voters have to know when they pay their taxes, they can count on you to make the right decisions. They can count on you not to put together no-bid contracts. They can count on you not to put together secret deals in the dead of night. They can count on you to make sure you follow the rules that you put in place for other citizens. And that's not being done with this particular mayor. Here's my point. I don't think you can be honest some of the time. I don't think you can be transparent some of the time. I don't think you can be have integrity some of the time. It's a 24/7 position.
Are you saying he's unethical and dishonest?
Well, I think I'll let the public speak. But I do think there have been a number of transactions over the last year or so and longer that some would suggest are unethical, that some would suggest might be a bit dishonest. I think at the end of the day, we have to wait for the investigation, the criminal investigation, to be concluded, and then we'll know more. But I do think the mayor has to answer a lot of questions, and he has to come up with more disclosures than he has come up with thus far.
You moved out of Hartford for several years to go to Chicago for a new job. Now you're back. What's the biggest change you've seen in Hartford?
Well, I think my biggest surprise is that not much has changed. We had a lot of great ideas when I left, and again, that was career opportunity. I went to Chicago to take a great job for another company, and when I returned, I was somewhat surprised. We still had issues of educational issues. We still had housing problems. There was still this perception of crime in the city. We still had shootings in the city. I think what surprised me the most on my return was how little things have changed. And we have to really focus on education. We have to focus on the perception of crime. We have to invest in our neighborhoods, and that is not being done.
One of the big changes in the city in recent years, the loss of some major corporations. Mass Mutual, MetLife is moving out next year. WSP has moved, and also ING is moving, taking thousands of jobs. The Labor Department says the city's lost about 7,000 jobs since the turn of the century. Who do you think is to blame for that, and why are they leaving?
Well, I think first of all, I think they're leaving in part because as a city, we're not very competitive. When you look at any business, including Channel 3, Most businesses will look at the bottom line. Can we park in a very efficient fashion? Are the taxes reasonable? Can we acquire great skilled workers? Do we have access to City Hall? This mayor has not spent a lot of time building relationship. The secret of being a great leader is to build relationships. You certainly build relationship with some of the key taxpayers who live in the city. He has not done that. I think it's critically important for us to recruit more businesses to the downtown area. That being said, we should understand that big businesses alone are not the only folks who, in fact, create jobs. We have a lot of small businesses that live in our neighborhoods, that work in our neighborhoods, and guess what? We are not focused on small businesses. One of the things I will do as mayor is put together a pool of resources. So if you're a small business person and you want to have a bookstore on Franklin Avenue or Albany Avenue, there'll be a pool of money in the city to help you do that. Right now, we spend millions of dollars to help big developers downtown. I'm not knocking it, it's a good thing, but we also have to spend resources to help small businesses that may try to prosper in our neighborhoods. We need to do more in our neighborhoods.
The mayor's relationship with Governor Rell has been considered tense. It's been criticized because the state gives the city a lot of money, and the city of Hartford depends on the state in many ways to survive. What would you do as mayor to improve the city's relationship with the governor?
Well, first of all, in my first day in office, it will be clear to the governor that I'm her best friend, and she's my best friend. I think it's important, no matter who the governor is, whether he or she is Republican or a Democrat, that you have a great relationship. Most of our monies to run the deal with the problems of the city come from state government. It's inconceivable to me that you cannot have a good working relationship with the governor or with our delegation. And that's another problem that this mayor has. He does not play well with others, in my opinion. He does not understand the concept of building bridges rather than burning bridges. It's an important concept to understand when you're a leader. I see myself as the mayor as a servant for the people. Therefore, I don't have the luxury to badmouth the governor. Now, when she's wrong, we may disagree, and we'll disagree in private. I don't have the luxury to badmouth the state delegation. I need to work with the state delegation. I need to work with the governor. I need to work with the mayors in other towns to build the kind of coalition where we can solve the problems that exist within the city. Because the truth of the matter, Dennis, is we cannot solve all the problems we now have in the city by ourselves. We need to partner with other state agencies, with the federal agencies, and with local communities to solve the problems that we have in the city.
Why is it important that people in the suburbs care about this election this year?
Well, I think it's extremely important because I've said before, leadership matters. It matters who the leader is in this city. Right now, rightly or wrongly, this city is a hub of the region. What happens in this city affects Avon. It will affect Glastonbury.
In terms of jobs and
in terms of jobs, in terms of services. The perception of the region is determined by what perception major employers have, businesses have, others have of the city of Hartford. It's the most important thing. In the end of the day, when you talk about the labor pool, in my opinion, is not going to come from West Hartford. It's not going to come from Bloomfield. It's not going to come from Avon. It's going to come from the large number of men and women we have in the city. And we have to work to educate those young men and women so they have the skills required to do the jobs at Travelers, at Aetna. We also have to work with our suburban communities to make them understand they have a stake in this. They cannot assume they could put a fence around West Hartford or Avon or Windsor and assume that the problems in the city are not theirs. This stuff is portable. When crimes happen, when a crime occurs in the city, it's only a matter of time before that same crime will occur in West Hartford, or Avon, or Simsbury. All these issues are portable. They go all over the region. We all have to work together to solve the problems that exist within the city.
All over the state, developers are building things left and right, yet you look across downtown Hartford, there are acres and acres of vacant lots.
Yeah.
As mayor, what would you do to get those developed?
Well,
and what is your vision for them? What would you like to see built downtown?
Well, that's why I say leadership matters. One thing we have to do is become more entrepreneurish. We are not entrepreneurs in the city. When I say that, many of our city employees, even this mayor, we don't think as entrepreneurs. For example, if you look at the vacant lots north of 84, there's acres and acres of vacant lots. Why would you sit in your office as the mayor and wait for a developer to knock on your door and say, I have an idea? Why would you not put together a package, put together a financial package, go to the trade shows and say to the developers, we have 20+ acres of property that might be good development opportunities. It's between New York and Boston, not far from Providence, not far from the casinos. Why wouldn't you put together a marketing package and go market that? We have to market it. Now, again, at the end of the day, we can't assume that just doing great things downtown will lift the city up. We have to focus also on the marketing plan to make sure our neighborhoods are livable, because people don't live downtown for the most part. Small population of folks downtown. I know you live downtown, but a small population of people downtown. People live in neighborhoods on the outskirts of downtown. We have to do the same thing in our neighborhoods. I would come up with an aggressive marketing plan that will include financial incentives, that will include opportunities for developers to be successful, and the key thing, get a reasonable return on their investment.
Speaking of developers, some have told me that they don't want to come to Hartford right now because there are too many requirements. There are union requirements, there are local hiring requirements, and we saw this into play when some conventions left the city. As mayor, what would you do to change that?
Well, first of all, it's real important as mayor that all developers understand my first responsibility is to make sure that I represent the interests of the people who live in the city. And we have a lot of people who live in the city that need jobs. Right now, we have the highest unemployment rate in the region, in the city. So it's important when you talk to the city and you're looking for financial incentives. Now, that's what the developers may not say to you. They come to the city, look for millions of dollars worth of assistance. If as mayor, I'm going to work with you and give you millions of dollars worth of financial assistance, it's reasonable for me to say, as a condition of this assistance, I need to hire people who live in the city. They also need jobs. I'm prepared to train these individuals as mayor to make sure they have the skills required. End of the day, we have to ensure that we hire people who live in the city because they also need jobs. And we cannot turn around our housing problems, our crime problems, unless we give men and women jobs. I have said throughout this campaign, if you give a man or a woman a job, 80% of their problems will go away, and perhaps 95% of your problems with them will go away.
Briefly,
jobs are critical.
Briefly, the crime statistics show that crime is going down in the city, but there's still a lot of quality of life crimes going on out there. As mayor, what do you think the police department should do to further eradicate crime?
Well, first of all, the police department is not sufficiently staffed. We have roughly 414 officers in the police department. We need a much higher number to staff it. Secondly, in order to deal with the issue of crime, we also have to focus on the root causes of crime. We cannot simply attack crime by increasing the number of police officers walking the street. That will help, but we have to focus on helping our young mothers who are trying to raise their kids in the city alone. We got to focus on that with the help of the state. We have to focus on giving these young men and women jobs. If a person has a job, he or she might be less inclined to do stuff that might be considered to be unlawful. And the other thing the police department must do is focus on what I call quality of life crime. A quality of life crime is a crime where somebody's riding down the street with music blaring. Somebody is throwing trash into the street. Those issues we have to have the police department focus on.
Hi, Charles Matthews, Democrat for mayor. Best of luck in the primary. And you say even if you lose the primary, you're going to run as an independent.
Yeah, so we intend to win the primary.
We'll be seeing you on this program again.
November 2.